Well, we reported earlier on the start of today's White House meeting between President Trump and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. That meeting, of course, is happening amid the opening shots of a trade war between the U.S. and EU, with Trump levying tariffs on European steel and aluminum, and the EU retaliating with import taxes on a range of American goods.
Yeah, and it also comes as the price of Trump's trade policies are starting to hit home for ordinary Americans, especially farmers hurt by the response to American tariffs. Trump has now proposed compensating those farmers with $12 billion worth of subsidies, but certainly not everybody is on the same page, as we heard a little bit of from Washington earlier. For more, we're joined by Dalibor Rohac, a research fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and right here in the studio, our correspondent Asher Westropp Evans. Asher, your first thoughts on those very vague and somewhat hopeful statements from Juncker and President Trump?
We certainly didn't get anything too direct and clear, but what we did hear from Trump was a reiteration of what he tweeted out earlier. We can take a listen to some of what was said.
If we could have no tariffs and no barriers and no subsidies, the United States would be extremely pleased. We have many countries, we won't say European Union, we have many countries where they have massive barriers and they have massive tariffs, and we have to follow. And you could call it retaliation, but I'd rather just say that we want reciprocal. So whether it's with European Union or others, it has to be reciprocal in nature at a minimum. And we're working on that, and I think we're making tremendous strides.
Dalibor, you wrote in Political just this week, you advised the European, Jean-Claude Juncker, to basically concede and to remove tariffs on U.S. car imports like President Trump is indicating. Why do you advise that?
Well, because trade wars are always costly, and the burden of trade wars is borne by consumers. So if the European Union imposed tariffs against American imports, it would most importantly hurt European consumers. And unlike with other leaders, unlike with other governments, it's very difficult to try to deter Donald Trump from embarking on a protectionist trajectory if he decides to do so. He is not a president who would follow a clear strategy, who would try to pursue a well-defined set of goals. He's interested in winning. He's interested in making one-off deals. He's interested in grabbing headlines. So scrapping the auto tariff would be good policy for its own, in its own right for the European Union, and it will also allow Trump to claim victory at home and hopefully move on to other subjects.
Well, before we talk about what really winning might mean and who is winning and losing here, Dalibor, Asher, take us through where we stand in terms of tariffs now.
So at the moment we stand, the U.S. put those tariffs on steel and aluminum products on the EU, among others. The EU responded with their widespread tariffs on very targeted American products, ranging at about $3.3 billion. And now, with these auto tariffs that Trump is proposing, we're seeing the EU put forth propositions for another $20 billion in tariffs, which seems to fly very much in the face of Trump's ultimate goal, though maybe this is a make peace with war situation. I'm not quite sure how Trump proposes to get this to swing back around to a free trade agreement.
Dalibor, I have to ask you, you suggest that basically the EU should give President Trump a victory. Well, we can't divorce these economic decisions from the politics involved. If President Trump gets a victory, it looks like the EU is taking a loss. Can you realistically expect the EU leaders to, in a sense, look like they're being weak and giving in to President Trump?
Well, in reality, no. Trade liberalization is a good thing in its own right, and both the EU and the United States are among the most open economies in the world. The transatlantic marketplace is a hugely important one, and I think it is in the interest of all parties to save it, notwithstanding the fact that there is a president in the White House who does not understand the EU, who does not like the EU, and who will likely actually try to bully the EU in the future over other issues.
Asher, if we're talking about who's suffering from this, it's not only Europeans. GM profit, I heard you saying a lot about that at the desk earlier those profits, what they are saying shows that it's not just Europeans that are hurt, it's even American automakers at home.
Exactly right, Nurit. And this is the classic warning that was put to Trump when he originally put these steel and aluminum tariffs on. Those tariffs may help one sector of the economy, that is American steel producers. However, American steel users, of which make up a considerably larger percentage of the economy, and GM is certainly a part of those, that category, are really impacted. They're saying that their steel costs and the increased levels of steel costs are going to affect their bottom line by up to $1 billion. I mean, this is a huge impact on a company that is only just coming into this sort of recovery period after a financial crisis which saw them almost go bankrupt.
Dalibor, you said earlier, President Trump, he's no ordinary politician. Winning seems to be everything to him, but we are seeing pushback against his policies now from Republicans over these suggested farm subsidies. We see GM saying that they're going to have to cut back their profit estimates. Is this not blowback going to start politically taking a toll on President Trump?
We will have to see for that, but the reality is that the policies he is pursuing are really not well suited to the reality of the American situation, to the extent to which there might be grievances over trade and economic openness in this country. They have to do with the behavior of countries such as China and some others that have engaged in widespread abuse of market access. In dealing with those problems, it is other liberal democracies of the West, such as the European Union, such as Canada, such as Australia, that are America's natural allies.
Dalibor.
And it is in the interest of the administration to work with Europeans to sort of address those issues, not to try to hit your allies with tariffs.
Well, briefly, Dalibor, how tough is that to do when you already have a U.S. administration that is not on the same page in terms of what it wants to do with tariffs, but the EU itself is also extremely fractured? They're not speaking with one voice either.
Well, that's true, but I think there is an understanding on the other side of the Atlantic that runs across partisan, across political lines, which is that it is very much in Europe's interest to keep the transatlantic relationship strong, notwithstanding the current administration, for security reasons, for economic reasons. In fact, there is no alternative for Europe at this moment than to have strong ties with the United States.
All right, maybe that is exactly what President Trump is betting on. We'll see if anything comes out of that meeting.